this, and then I just make little bowls. And what you want to make sure is that you get the bowl part big enough so people don't have to constantly go back and fill it up. So I try and make them shaped so that they come out. And I want I want the lip not especially rounded, but kind of beveled in just a little bit here. And then I go back and I'll bowl it out. And I have a narrow base because they have to be put on the stems. And I want it nice and smooth for their lips. And it looks really big, but they shrink a lot.
What do you think the diameter of the rim is?
I would say 5 inches. It's fairly large. Yeah. So then once I have that done, then I just cut under it. I dry my hands. It's kind of like the secret to getting it off the bat. It's just cut under it twice. And put it aside. And there's one. I'll make 3. How's that? Is that a good number?
Good.
Make 3. And then I'll make the 3 stems, and then I'll show you how to put them together. So here's the second one. I have one of your goblets, so I know you know goblets. I have a blue one.
I actually almost wish I had seen you or that you were doing the goblet class before I signed up for Mary.
Oh.
I feel like I can do 2,
Oh, sure. The goblets, you can switch if you want to, but I don't want you to feel like you have to. It's just going to be, I think I'm starting the first week in September. So then I just go way in at the bottom because you want, when you put them together, you want to have to match up the stem with the bowl. No questions? I'm surprised. No questions.
Did they tell you how much clay we got there?
Oh, I've got a pound of clay for the bowl, and I use between 1.5 pounds and 2 pounds for the stem. And these are all solid stems.
Morning.
Good morning, honey.
Nice haircut.
Race between how fast it falls out.
You what?
It's a race to see how if it falls out before it gets cut.
He got it cut last night. So then I just take my rib and bring it out. And for a mug, I am pretty careful about making sure that it goes, the width is here, you know, so that it goes between your lips and up to the, that makes it comfortable. Any smaller and it's like people with noses.
Barbara, do that again, because I didn't get your nose in there.
You didn't get my nose?
Okay.
Holly Pumpkin brought donuts, and there's lots of water in there. So then, but on goblets, I throw that whole theory away because I like really big bowls for this, and I also like to have a little bit of a bevel right here so that it keeps the wine in, but is smooth for the mouth. Because you don't want to be irritated when you're drinking wine.
Which way did you mean your bevel?
My bevel, it goes this way.
Big.
Yeah. So then, dry my hands, cut under, and there's 2. On this one, I'm going to texture or put rings on the outside. So I just take the back of my thumb and go up and make a few rings, and they will stay there because then I'm going to just use the rib on the inside to bellow it out. There's a difference in what people like. Some people like, see the one that's almost on the far left that's plain, and it's just it comes up in more of an elegant curve and doesn't have a lot of knobs on it. And then there's the ones on the far right that I've done a lot of carving, they're stumpier, but people like different shapes, and those haven't been bisques, but if you're careful, go over and pick up each one and you'll see you'll get to one, and I hope, and you'll say, oh, this one feels good. And I try and make the knobs and everything and the cuts so that they fit in like 3 fingers, and that it's comfortable to drink from them. But also, like the small ones that are kind of clunky, I mean, you can drink beer out of those, or Irish coffee, something of that sort. So this is the stem. This is the first stem. I use 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of clay on these, and these are fun to make. I mean, if I ever just have a lot on my mind, which happens, but I want to throw or I want to make something, I'll make candlesticks, because they're fun, they're easy, and they're less tedious than some forms where you have to do a lot of thinking. So I can actually do something like almost meditate and make candlesticks. And goblet stems are almost identical to, in fact, I made a few short candlesticks among there. So,
candlesticks, and they really look like you were meditating when you made them.
like I wasn't really totally. Well, and they are. I mean, they help you kind of work out things too. They're fun to make. You can do other things in your mind. You don't have to like be totally present. So the bottom is probably a good 4 inches wide. I want to keep the bottom a good 4 inches wide. And so basically I just kind of cone it up, just like you would cone up a piece of clay. And that's how I started. Once I've got it centered, and then I just bring it up. I use one hand on top, one hand on the side. And when I get it, I want to make sure and not have this real sharp at the bottom. It's got some thickness to it, and I will take my clothespin and make it so that it's a good 1/3 of an inch or more. Everything with me is a 1/3 of an inch, so 1/3 of an inch thick. And then I want to bring this in. When I trim these, I leave them solid, but when I turn them over, I trim down in here so that this isn't solid when it's completed. I do, and I have a chuck all set for today. So then I come up here, and I have my left hand holding it so it doesn't go off center. And I just come straight up like this. And then before I get it too high, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and make the little place where I'm going to attach the cup. And what I do is I concentrate on making this part so that I can just gently put a little cup, attach the cup right in here. So I take my rib and I make that nice and smooth. And that's the part, when I put those together, you'll see I just scratch all of that in, and that's pretty much finished. And now I get to play. Now I get to say, do I want a ring here, maybe one here, and these will all most likely be carved. And they remind me of stairways. Yeah, spindles, yeah. And then here, I don't want to leave all this thickness, even though I can trim it away. But now, if I take my hands and just, I have to do it by feel, kind of squeeze it in a little bit. So then, it's pretty much finished. And afterwards is when I get to play and decide what gets carved away and what doesn't. And the ribs are just so nice to make nice little places.
You. That little reverse curve.
That nice little curve. Does that have a name? We
Nice
should
little
name
curve?
this name this nice little curve. It probably does have a little curve. It's just so pleasing to get a nice curve there.
It's almost a bell shape.
It is almost it. So then I do the same thing here. Cut under it twice, and then I don't worry about my fingerprints because I'm going to carve there. So. And I try very hard when people want goblets, they want me to make goblets, I try very hard not to make them the same. I say, oh, I don't make, because it would be so, that would take away the fun to say, oh, I've got to make 6 knobs in the middle, I have to carve them a certain way, they have to be a certain, it's more fun to have a set that's different. Much less tedious on the totter.
Plus, people know which goblet is theirs.
See, it does away with having to have
That's
the little
right.
tags. That's true. So the same thing here. Huh? If you can remember.
Yeah, they're goblets.
It depends,
They
yeah.
all look alike.
But Polly, you make such nice wine coolers. You know, you could make goblets and wine cooler. Yeah. So then I did the same thing on the bottom of this one, and that is just take my clothespin.
I need to say something.
You can say anything. What you need, bud?
You could also make another business out of what you're doing.
I couldn't I? I saw some juicers there. I took several pictures of juicers that were for hand juicing, like lemons and oranges, lemons, I guess.
Yeah.
And they came up like this, and then they came out here, and they had all these carvings, and I'm like, oh, I should buy one of those. If only it had a smooth top.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So
Oh, Barbara,
I'm
cut that
talking
part.
about. I thought you'd miss me.
Yeah. They were blue and white, I remember that.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. By the way, the plotters are in the same places each year.
They're what?
They're in the same places each year.
Oh, they are? Oh, my. Oh. I know which ones to run to next year. And actually, you know, even though when I make them, sometimes I'll lose one, it's not a real big deal for some reason for me if I lose one of these. I don't know why. It doesn't, like if I am making a vegetable bowl or something and I've got it almost finished and it slumps or something, I'm much more disappointed than if I get to here and then it twists. And they will twist. You have to be very careful. Your hands have to, when I have my hand on it, it's just letting it slide. If you have any pull or you grip too tightly, it will just twist right off. So, and then I want to make the top right here. You can kind of see what they will look like. And then I switch them around back and forth to say, how does that one look? How does this one look? And so, I mean, they can be like this one that's more tulipy shaped could maybe look better on this one. Do you see the difference? I mean, there's a real difference between here,
Yes.
where it's more rustic looking, and then here, where it follows the shape up. So, and I have an extra one of these. So, stem. I don't know. Anybody want to change anything? And then I have my carving tools, and then I have a porcupine quill from Africa that I use right here at the juncture of the join. And then I have a little scratchy one for scoring and a brush. And so that's what I use for, whoops.
Is this
Thank
for
you.
the wall? Just for the wall.
That's for the wall. That's for the wall. Everybody bring me shards for the wall. So, here we are. We have these. So I'm going to put my glasses on. Look, this is the first one. And the inside's fine. You see the bevel, Pumpkin, you see how it's
Mhm.
beveled in just
Oh,
slightly
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to fit it right on top of the chuck. Center it.
You just guesstimated on that chuck, Barbara.
I did. I had to actually change it twice because it was too small, and you want these to feel, pretty snug in there. So then I just trim this, and what you want to do, I just trim away the roughness first, and on the bottom there's. Oh, I should have showed the bottom. I just kind of will trim this away so that it's fairly smooth on the bottom, and then I'm gonna look here and I'm going to see I really need to have it be quite a bit smaller and conform to the inside here, so it really needs to have quite a bowl shape to it. So I'm going to trim this. Now you
Mind
see
me
what,
asking what you get for your goblets?
my goblets are usually 45 for these, I think.
I was gonna answer wine.
What's that?
I was gonna answer wine.
Yeah, or, a few bottles of wine, yeah. Have you been making goblets, Paul?
I haven't, but I really want to. I actually am going to picking up clay this morning because I have 2 wine crocks to make
Oh,
and
okay.
2 wedding crocks that I've got to do.
Oh, okay. So,
I would.
Your wedding
crock,
cakes
It would
are
be
beautiful.
nice to have the goblets to go with them to see when they pick it up if they wanted to buy the goblets.
that's always smart. That's always smart. So then I look at this, see if it will fit pretty nicely. And I think it needs to be a little bit more hooked up here.
Are you looking for a snug?
Yes, you don't want air in there. You don't want any air in there. And then I'm going to take this tool and I'm going to First,
very
scratch in here. Scratch here, and it's kind of nice. I mean, it means that, I was at first doing this with a needle tool and taking a lot of time. And then I just take a brush and I do the goblet stem first because then it sits and that kind of gets in there a little bit. And then I do this, rough it up.
Is that a wire brush?
Yeah, it's just wire. It's just like a scoring tool, and I guess that's what it's used for. I don't know. Then I put this on, and just try and match her up so that she stays. Get it even.
You don't use a level, huh?
I do.
Do you?
I do. I've got just a little guy that I've got next to
That's
the wheel.
great. That's great. And then I clean this up a little bit. It'll slide around for a little bit, but that's okay. On the outside. And I just don't worry about it
You
too
don't have
much
to.
at this point. I take it off gently. Whoops, flip it over. Put it there. And I
Nice.
leave it, and that's enough for right now. Then I do them all, and then I'll come back. And by the time I come back to this one, it's set up enough that it's dried and they're more firm, and then I trim the bottom. And now I got to look. This one's a little more gentle slope. If you leave too much here, though, it just is unnecessarily heavy, and you really can't go back and trim this away again. That's a really good idea, Pumpkin. Maybe I'll try and do that. See if I get it, if I understood what you meant. Let's see.
The only other thing I could think of doing is if you just cut positive and a negative of the curve
Mm-hmm.
and trim one to the positive, one to the negative.
There's just, that's the nice thing about working in clay. There's so many ways you can do things. And I think I've been really lucky. I've never trimmed through one of these, but I think it's just luck, because basically you can feel the clay when it gets real thin. It will give a little bit while you're throwing it.
Well, I think one of the things that makes your throwing so magical to watch is you just have a sense of thickness, thinness, centeredness that a lot
Well-
of people just don't have. They have to
Oh, well, thank
somehow.
you, but you know, it's like 36 years. So I could feel when I pulled that off. I mean, this one's a good, really good fit, because I could feel it kind of, it didn't want to come away, even without any cross hatching. And I really should call it cross hatching rather than scratching, but. And I just wanted to make some goblets the other day, so I made those. I really have no intention for them. I'll probably just put them at 3rd Street, but they get addicting to make because they're so much fun, and we'll probably make a lot of them in class. So now, what you were talking about is to put it back on here,
Right,
and
just sort of set it a bit, and then see if you have enough marks inside to know that you don't have a smooth place where there is only air.
oh. And one thing I learned by not doing it
Yeah.
was to, when you have it on here and you have it on reasonably straight, is to go back and clean this. Because
Oh.
I had to start using the porcupine quill, and the porcupine quill, just, if there's a little bit of a gap, I don't use the sharp pointy end. I use this part and just go right here. And that will join it just a little bit. And another thing you can do is just use a wet brush, and the brush is just so gentle, and it will get in fine, fine lines. And this one. That one. And they're really pretty heavy. Do you want me to do the last 4? Do you have time? Just, I'm leaving my hand on here and letting it just rotate. No friction at all, just in case, because it is tall, so that it doesn't go flying. But then I have a lot of clay in here, and it takes a while. I want to trim it so that it's not real heavy. It's not bad to have a heavy goblet on the bottom. However, you don't want it so it feels like it's made of lead. And you want it to look graceful. The one thing I do like about solid stems is that sometimes if they're all the way hollow, when they're washed by hand and then they retain all that water, and turning them over, I just don't pay attention, I guess, and I'll get water caught up in them, and then it takes days. Then I have to sit it right side up, and just too much work. And these, all I do is I'll go down maybe a ½ inch and just give it kind of a nice little curvy part here. And actually, even trimming this way it's fun. It's not a chore. I'll go down right, especially in the middle. And what I'm doing is I'm using the point. This little trimming tool has a little bit of a point on it, and I want to use a fairly sharp tool. I don't want it to drag, because because if it drags, it will
Then you
pull.
start twisting.
And so I can use this one, which is even sharper and pointier in the middle. And I just take my time. I mean, there's no reason to rush. If I rushed and messed them up, then I would be, at this point, there's enough work in it that it would be frustrating. And they will twist. So, just want to smooth it out. It does require some patience, but not too bad. Chum is just simply, I mean, it can be solid, but I found that I have more, I don't know, it's more variable. I can use it for different forms if I make it hollow. So basically, I just go down in the middle, open it up, and want it centered.
Do you go all the way down to the bat head?
I don't. I'm leaving 3/4 of an inch on the bottom. I want it to be really stable and really centered, which right now it's not. There you go. And then I just
You would
come
reuse
up.
this, right? Like more than just today?
Oh, yeah, this I can use for weeks.
Yeah.
Weeks and weeks and weeks. And if I were to cover it, like, I'm just going to cut this off because it's uneven. If I were to keep it covered and spritz it, I could keep it for probably months. The only problem with keeping them in raw form is that they will mildew over time. So I mean, it's easy just to make a new one in a couple weeks if I need them. And so that's basically it. Then I just come up, close it up, and then an eyeball about the size that you want. What's nice about it being hollow is you can really play with it. Really, play with the slope of it, I guess. And then I take my needle tool so I don't forget. Put a big old hole in the side. Big old hole. Because the last thing you want is to come back ready to trim and find out that you've got.
Your birdhouse.
Yeah, there you go. Find out that it's all cracked, because they will really crack badly. So
Oh,
then,
thank you.
oh well, I'll show you the tail end of it too. So that's all ready.
Now you would do the chop.
This means that you can make it for each piece, and you just put that over. See, it's all ready to go.
You know, at one point, when you thought you had to move the first time you found the dry cleaners,
Oh,
you remember that building that you found? My first thought was you could just tell them to leave all the leftover plastic behind.
So basically, I think of the cup being a third and the base being 2/3. So basically, I've got 1, 2, 3, and I like that size. And then here I've got, almost with my hand throwing, a little margin here, a little delineation, and here where the cup meets. And then down here, I've nicked it right here with my fingernail. And so I can use this as a little margin. Here is a margin, and here's a margin. So it will, when people look at it, they'll see the proportions of 1/3 and 2/3, which is, I think, really kind of nice for people. So I'm going to go ahead and start my carving down here, and we need to stop for a second because I forgot. Carving here and keep my little margin. I forgot my banding wheel, so I wanted to go get it. But I just want to do little marks here to remind me that I'm going to leave this margin at the base. And the banding wheel makes this all so much better. I could take a pencil or a pen and make my lines on here, but I find it's much more fun to just let the design kind of flow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this, and I'm going to see where, if I were to use this, where would my fingers go? And basically what I found is I like this part being out here. My fingers naturally cup it here, but down here, it's too much right here. So I'll do a lot of carving here. And it's a fun way to figure out how to make a pottery piece fit in someone's hand and feel really comfortable. Because if you do it little bit by little bit, then you end up coming up with something that's going to feel good in your hand. And you want it to be really comfortable so they'll continue to use it all the time. And come back for more. So then just taking that away should make my little finger just cup right in here. And that's much more comfortable to do that. And I could have cut it the other way too, but I just naturally cut this way. This also lightens up the stem. And it kind of looks like little diamonds. I leave it, and I will, in about 2 hours, go back and clean off all the burrs. So now I have to just say, well, actually this one's not bad the way it is. But I'll put just a few here. I don't want to change this knob too much, because then it won't feel really good in your hand. And then I just go back, and down here I can play. I don't know why I find this restful. I just do. Do you guys carve? It's so restful. Some people think it's tedious. I have to stop myself because I would carve the whole thing. It's fun, isn't it? I mean, it really is fun. If you guys want one of my blanks, you can take it and carve it and have it if you'd like. So what do you think? Should I do more, or is that enough? I think that's enough for that one. I think it feels good. Now I could take it, put it upside down. And carve it here.
Hey, you get such a different orientation or perspective when you turn it upside down.
When you turn it upside down,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a, yeah. And I had never thought about pumpkin, about looking at it as a
You know what else it would
holder.
make?
What's that?
A cake holder.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
yes,
it
yes.
would. You're right.
Or any kind of footed server.
Yes.
Oh, and that
Yeah.
would be light because this is just a very light bowl, and yet it would hold. Oh, good. Oh, people are so used to in my classes, like my last class was plates and platters, and it ended up being dinnerware by the end. You know, so everybody made a dinner set, but you know, goblets, candle holders, and cake plates kind of sounds.
And dog water bowls.
And, you know, dog water bowls. But this will lighten it up a little bit more visually. Not so much, but this, when I turned it over, I thought, well, when I first had it right side up, I thought, you know, this looks a little clunky up top here. So if I take this and kind of carve it here, then it's not quite so clunky.
Now, at this stage of the game, do you know how you're going to glaze it, or are you beginning to
A lot of
get
times they
ideas?
do, yeah, and there are certain glazes that look so nice over carvings. The antique blue, this is all cone 6 clay, cone 5/6, so the antique blue looks really nice in carvings. So let's turn her back over and see. And see, that lightens, for me, that lightens up
Oh,
this
very
look up
much so.
top.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's not quite so clunky, but now I kind of want.
And in a funny way, it looks more finished too, because it was just part of the way up the shaft.
Yeah.
So-
But, you know, it's hard for me to stop carving once I start, you know, it's kind of like,
One more thing you could do.
one more thing, one more line. But that's the nice thing is, you know, and it's all,
I like how you're making them symmetrical, or, you know,
Yeah.
you're joining the two.
yeah.
Perfect.
It looked a little like it needed that.
Oh, it's lovely.
That's better. That's better.
Now, do you ever, it's like when